Hi guys, I'm the Dutch Movie Guy, and today I'm giving my official spoiler-free review of Rogue One, a Star Wars story, or as some other people like to call it, Star Wars Rogue One. I already did a spoiler-free initial thoughts video on Wednesday because that was after seeing the movie for the first time, but in the case of Star Wars, it's really something when I see a movie for the first time. It's like, wow, there are a lot of things to digest, a lot of things for me as a huge Star Wars fan that I need to think about. So I gave my initial thoughts for the people who wanted that, and now I'm giving my official spoiler-free review because there are still some people who are like, should I really see this movie? Well, for you, I'm here to tell you why you need to see this movie. Now, if you've missed my initial thoughts video, don't bother watching it because I'll just repeat the things that I said in that video in this one, and even more. I will elaborate on the certain points that I made, and I'll even add more things that I haven't said before about Rogue One. I'll also say that if you want more of an insight as to what I think about everything coming before Rogue One so far, then you should see my playlist in where I reviewed everything before Rogue One so far. You can click right here for that playlist. Everything in the current canon in terms of novels and comics, TV shows, and of course the prequel movies, I reviewed. Everything is in there, so if you want a good sense of everything that I think about those movies, yeah, you should definitely check that out. I also have reviews up for the original trilogy and The Force Awakens, but to be honest, after seeing Rogue One, I will have to re-review the original Star Wars because Rogue One definitely does something to the viewing experience of Star Wars. So the thing in that playlist is, like, you start off at the bottom with the Phantom Menace, and as it goes up, that is the order of the timeline of everything that is going on in the Star Wars universe. Now, by now, I have seen Rogue One 3 times, and after seeing it 3 times, I think I love it more every time I see it. I already know I liked it a lot seeing it the first time, but there were just some things I wasn't really sure about that I needed to see more, think more about, and now after seeing it 3 times, I kind of have an idea where Rogue One stands. It may end up being even better after I see it more and more. That's just a case of, like, how does the viewing experience enhance after seeing it multiple times? Because I watch all the Star Wars movies a lot of times, so Rogue One will be no different there. I have to see the movie a lot of times to really know what I think about it. Just like with The Force Awakens, like when I saw The Force Awakens the first time, I was like, okay, I know I like it. There are some things that I'm not really sure about. It was very overwhelming seeing a Star Wars movie for the first time, and then after seeing The Force Awakens more and more, I'm like, okay, I'm liking this movie a lot, and I just watched The Force Awakens this year alone so many times, and I think the same is going to happen with Rogue One because the new 2 movies that Disney has put out are just great. I love these movies. As the big Star Wars fan that I am, I just love these movies, and it's just great. Now, I assume that most people by now know that Rogue One is the direct prequel to the original 1977 released Star Wars. So everything in the movie, we know where it's going. We know that it ends with the rebels getting the Death Star plans. The thing is, however, that how it happened is actually pretty interesting. The way the movie was able to describe how it happens, how this team of rebels, basically not everyone in the team is rebel, but they do end up working for the rebellion, getting the Death Star plans, and it was really interesting to see that. I think that the way they are able to tell the story is just very interesting. Had me hooked for the entirety of the movie, and that was just great to see. I also think that my personal viewing experience was enhanced a lot because I read the direct prequel book called Catalyst. This book is great. If you've not read it, you should read it and then see Rogue One because it gives so much insight into certain things in Rogue One, especially like the characters. Like you have the family of the Ursos, Jyn Erso, Galen Erso, Lyra Erso, you have Orson Krennic in there, you have Saw Gerrera, like all those characters get explained. I'm not sure if I'm forgetting it. Oh wait, Tarkin, of course. All those characters get explained in this novel. Was really interesting to read about them, like the relations between them and how the characters are themselves. So when the movie started, when I see those characters on screen, I already know those characters. That was great because This is the first Star Wars movie without an opening crawl. That's something that they wanted to do because it's a different kind of Star Wars movie. It's an anthology, so no crawl, and they just start the movie. About the opening crawl, that's one of my complaints. Because I do think that people who have not read Catalyst and want a little bit more insight into what is happening at that point in the universe, they kind of need an opening crawl. I think that an opening crawl should have been done. It could have been done in a different way, like do a bit of different music, do a bit of a different font and style, like color, but at least give us an opening crawl, because it's something that is Star Wars, and yeah, I wanted that because I like my Star Wars movies like an actual Star Wars movie, and that's why I don't like the prequels too much, because the prequels are kind of different. So that's just one of the complaints. It's a minor complaint. What is a bigger complaint though is the other thing that they do instead of the opening crawl, because like instead of giving us an opening crawl, they gave us the title. Like at one point you see Rogue One at the very beginning of the movie. I don't know why they did that. It looks pretty terrible. It is not needed. I think it's like they put Rogue One with like a terrible font, a terrible design. It's like, why did they do that? I don't know. For some reason they felt the need to do that. But it's one minor thing in a movie. It is at the point that it happens, like what the hell is happening, but it's just a few seconds of the entire movie. Now, the interesting thing about this movie is that it is the first Star Wars movie with flashback scenes. And technically the Force vision that Rey had in The Force Awakens was already kind of a flashback scene, but not really. It's a Force vision, it's different, and we've seen Force visions before in Star Wars movies, but this is the first movie that actually does flashback. Like it begins with little child Jyn and Galen and Lyra, and then at one point it goes to the current day, and then I don't know exactly where in the movie, but somewhere in the movie Jyn thinks of her past. That is an actual flashback scene. This is the first flashback in a Star Wars movie, and I'm okay with it. I know that George Lucas originally said, like, no, we're not doing flashbacks because I think that hurts the story. Well, guess what? It worked. Now, one of the biggest things for people when watching a Star Wars movie is characters. That is the reason why the original trilogy and The Force Awakens were pretty much loved and the prequels weren't, because the prequels didn't have very likable, good characters. The original trilogy has great, likable, relatable characters like Luke, Leia, Han, whatnot. In The Force Awakens you have Rey, Poe, Finn, all great characters, and for me personally that is also a huge factor. Like, are the characters that I see in the Star Wars movie likable and relatable? In terms of Rogue One, I will definitely say that the characters are not as good as The Force Awakens. I think The Force Awakens did a way better job at making good characters than Rogue One, but still, I like the characters in Rogue One a lot, and most of that is due to Catalyst. Catalyst already gave me backstory to certain characters in the movie that made me like the movie a lot from the beginning, because I was already invested in those characters. Because the movie itself doesn't give a whole lot of backstory into most of the characters, and while I am okay with that, it's just that it's not as good as The Force Awakens for me, but most of the characters are just good. Like Felicity Jones as Jyn Erso was very good, gave a great performance I think, and I cared about Jyn Erso at the end of the movie, so that's a good thing. Cassian, played by Diego Luna, is very good, but a little underdeveloped, I'd say. And then actually the best characters that are not from Catalyst, because if I were to say what is my favorite character of Rogue One, it's Galen Erso, but that is mostly due to Catalyst. But if I have to base it just on the movie alone, it's a tie between Chirrut Imwe and K2SO. Chirrut, played by Donnie Yen, was a badass, was great, and the dynamic between him and Baze Malgus is really funny. And K2SO is a little bit like 3PO, but a little different. Like, he's a little darker than 3PO. Like, 3PO has some kiddie moments that are a little annoying at times. K2SO doesn't have that. K2SO is a really good droid, very well done by Alan Tudyk, who did the CGI performance. I'm not really sure how they did it, but I know Alan Tudyk did at least the voice and the physical performance for K2SO, was a great character in the movie. It was really fun to have him on screen because he adds levity to a pretty serious movie, because the movie overall is pretty serious. It's pretty like, it's an actual war movie and there are stakes, and then you need a little bit of comic relief like K2SO. It really works perfectly. And the thing is, thanks to Catalyst, I already love the characters of Galen, Lyra and Krennic, and even Saw Gerrera. Saw Gerrera already was introduced in the Clone Wars. I liked him in Clone Wars because I rewatched the episodes and I was like, okay, Saw, yeah, no, makes sense. Then I read Catalyst, enhanced the character even more. And then in the movie itself, he was a little weird, but I think that fit the character. There definitely is a lot of history to his character, because between Catalyst and Rogue One, something happens to him, and in Rogue One he can't really function that well, and I don't really know what. There's something that happened, but I think that Saw Gerrera served the story well. Krennic is a great villain, I'd say. Again, a great villain in Star Wars. Like, Star Wars has great villains. Like, you have Vader, you have the Emperor, you have Tarkin, Grand Admiral Thrawn, who has not even been in a movie yet, but hopefully soon will. And Krennic now is a great addition. Oh wait, and I forgot Maul. Not Maul based off the Phantom Menace, but Maul based on what he did in Clone Wars and Rebels. But like, Star Wars has great villains overall, and that's really nice to see. And Krennic is no different. Krennic, a little different than the villains we've seen before, but very welcome, very good, very manipulative. Especially if you've read Catalyst, you know his character very well. As far as the characters that I haven't addressed, the others are good. None of them I dislike. Like, none of them is like a Jar Jar Binks. None of them is a bad character in any way. Some just a little underdeveloped, but like, most of the characters just serve their purpose in the story and work well, and it's fine, it's good. Now I will also say that Rogue One has one moment in the entire movie that I had a nerdgasm. I had a lovely little nerdgasm, and I was so happy that it happened. And that is something that The Force Awakens didn't really have. Like, I think that overall, as a movie, The Force Awakens is a bit better, because The Force Awakens never really had a dull moment, like Rogue One kind of has. But Rogue One has one phenomenal scene in there that I'm like, oh my god, this is the best thing in Star Wars ever. That's something that The Force Awakens didn't have, and Rogue One luckily did have. And now that certain moment, I will say, yes, it does involve Darth Vader. Because Darth Vader is in this movie, and he is used very sparingly. Like, I said in my initial thoughts video that he probably would have 3 minutes of screen time. When I saw it the third time today, I clocked it, and it was indeed 3 minutes of screen time. The 3 minutes of screen time that Darth Vader has in this movie is perfect. Like, there's nothing about that I dislike. It makes perfect sense why he is in the movie, why he is not that much in the movie, and when he is in the movie, it's like, this is Darth Vader. It actually enhances Darth Vader in the original Star Wars. For me, the reason that I love Darth Vader is because of The Empire Strikes Back, because there he was made an actual character. I still like him a lot in A New Hope, but thanks to Rogue One, I like that character in A New Hope even more. And thanks to Rogue One, I have now officially decided to put Darth Vader as my favorite Star Wars character of all time. Previously, that was Luke Skywalker, and Luke Skywalker may end up getting that #1 spot again after I see Episode 8, but for now, Darth Vader is my favorite Star Wars character, probably my favorite character, period, in anything. Oh my god, I love Darth Vader. Now, another classic character that returns, and this is no spoiler whatsoever if you know anything about Star Wars, Tarkin is in it. Grand Moff Tarkin, who we've only seen in the original Star Wars in terms of movies, was great in this movie. What I will say is that they CG'd his face, which initially I was like, wow, that is Tarkin, and it looks like him, but at one point it was like, oh yeah, it's CG. It is CG. It it's noticeable that it's CG. It doesn't take me out of the movie, but it's noticeable that they did CG his face and that it's not the actual actor, but because of course the actual actor is dead. But I think they can do a better job at putting CG on faces nowadays. I already love Tarkin a lot because he is in Catalyst and he has his own novel called Tarkin. Those novels, I'd say, are both really worth reading and really enhance the character of Tarkin a lot. And he also made cameos in Rebels and Clone Wars, which I think when he made those cameos were really well done. And the thing is, Tarkin is used quite a lot. It actually surprises me a little bit that he wasn't in the marketing, because Darth Vader was in the marketing, and Tarkin is in this movie a lot more than Darth Vader, but I'm okay with it because I already knew that Tarkin was going to be in it. But when I saw him, it was like, oh, good. And it really was the character that I know from the novels, from the movie, so that was great. Now, speaking of classic characters returning, there are, of course, more in terms of the rebellion as well. Like Mon Mothma, we've already seen in the trailers, and we saw Bail Organa, and there are a lot of characters that pop up at one point that make perfect sense because they appear either in the original Star Wars or somewhere else in the original trilogy, or even in the prequel trilogy, or even in a Star Wars Rebels. So it's like everything is really tying into each other, but in a way that it doesn't shrink the universe. Everything just makes sense. Like the people that you see in the movie, it makes sense that they're there, and it's just really cool to see everything really tied together while it's not shrinking the universe, because that is one thing that I was really worried about, because everything in the prequels shrinks the universe. Like, yeah, they give a few new worlds, but in the end they relate everything to everyone, and it's like they shrink the universe a lot. This movie doesn't do that whatsoever. None of the characters, both new and old, get related in some way, unless it serves the story in a way that I'm like okay with it, but it doesn't give a bullshit explanation as to like Tarkin built K2SO. No, none of that is in it, so it doesn't shrink the universe. In terms of like building on the universe, expanding it, it gives us, of course, new characters that I just talked about. It also gives new worlds. It gives, I believe, 7 planets. There are 7 planets in this movie, and the only one that we've seen before is Yavin 4. All the other planets in the movie we've never seen before in any of the movies. The other planets are not very similar to worlds that we've seen before, so I think that in terms of world building they did do a better job than The Force Awakens, because The Force Awakens, while introducing us to a lot of new worlds, all those worlds we've kind of seen before because they were like really similar to the worlds in the original trilogy. In Rogue One we get a lot of worlds that are not similar to worlds we've seen before in either the prequel trilogy, the original trilogy, or The Force Awakens. So that was great, I think. And another thing that I think Rogue One did better than The Force Awakens is battle scenes. The Force Awakens had cool battle scenes, like when Poe and Finn get the TIE Fighter, when Finn and Rey are in the Millennium Falcon, when you later have the dogfight with the TIE Fighters and X-Wings above Massa's castle, and then of course the Battle of Starkiller Base. All those battles are cool. They're nothing like the battles in Rogue One. Heck, the Rogue One battles could be better than the original trilogy battles. Like, I absolutely love the Battle of Endor. The space battle that they put on screen there, I think, was the best space battle ever to be put on screen. And then I saw Rogue One. And now I will say that the space battle above Scarif in this movie is the best space battle that I've ever seen on screen. My God! Visually phenomenal. Like CG and how it's shot, it's amazing. It's intense action. It really is like a war kind of movie, and it's, oh my God, it's amazing. You just have to see it. Action scenes in Rogue One are fantastic. Visuals, like in terms of CG, for the most part are good. Some face CG that is a little weird, of course, but like, yeah, in terms of visual effects and how it's shot, it's really well done. Now, about the original trilogy, what I will say is that Rogue One enhances your experience of the original trilogy, especially the original Star Wars. That is something that I was a little worried about. Like, do they ruin anything or do they enhance your experience? And for me, they enhanced my experience. Right after seeing Rogue One for the first time, I was like, okay, now I have to see the original Star Wars and see how that ties into each other. And it ties in seamlessly and it makes everything in the original Star Wars better. I will say that my rating for the original Star Wars has gone up. Initially, I gave the original Star Wars a 9 out of 10. But my score has raised on that because I have seen the original version of the movie. When I reviewed the original Star Wars for the first time, I had only seen the special edition, never the original version. And the original version is so much better than the special edition. Also, I've read certain books like Lost Stars that enhance your perception of that movie, and with Rogue One it enhances it even more. So after reading and watching a whole lot of things, I love the original Star Wars even more than I already did. I really didn't think that was possible because, believe me, I love the original Star Wars even though it's my least favorite of the original trilogy. But it has gone up, and I'll probably make a new review for that movie soon because my review that I have right now is kind of outdated, is kind of not as good as I can make reviews right now, and my perception has changed on the movie. So, I have been praising this movie a lot, but I've already said a few things that bothered me, and now I want to just get into what really, I think didn't work for me in this movie. I already said the title card and the fact that there is no crawl is a big mistake and was just an issue for me. I also already said that there was some CG on the faces that just didn't work for me. So while for the most part the CG is really good, there is some CG that is just questionable, and I'm like, in a movie that you have such good CG, why can't you make the CG on the faces and some things that are not very good better? I expect that too. Yeah, whatever. Now, another big issue that I had the first time, and I'm already more okay with it after seeing the movie 3 times, the pacing. The pacing in the movie speeds up, slows down at weird points that I'm a little bit If you see it the first time, that may be kind of an issue, especially because, it starts off decent, then the second act slows down quite a lot, and then the third act goes really fast. The third act is really intense, fast-paced action, so it's a little weird throughout the movie how it's paced, and that might throw people off a little bit. After seeing it a couple more times, I'm more okay with it, but it can definitely be an issue for people. Now, another thing that I had an issue with after seeing the movie the first time, but I already have less of an issue with it now, is the musical score. Star Wars, all the 7 Star Wars movies have fantastic scores. Even Attack of the Clones, that I don't like at all, has a great score. And it's like, when you have a Star Wars movie, I expect kind of a good score. And it was kind of underwhelming the first time. The thing is, I always stick to the end of the credits to hear the music. And when I was listening to the music that plays during the credits now today, when I saw it the third time, I was like, I already recognize new themes. So already the music is warming up to me. And probably after seeing it more times, it will warm up to me even more. I will like it even more. But it is the worst Star Wars score that we've had, and that is not to say that it's bad, but it's just a little underwhelming because all the Star Wars scores are so great. It might be better than the Clone Wars score, but believe me that the Clone Wars score is actually pretty good, especially the score of the entire Clone Wars TV series, not just the movie itself. Now, I already pointed out some weird CG on faces, and I almost forgot one really weird CG point in the movie that is on par with the Rathtar scene. The thing with the Rathtar scene in The Force Awakens was that when I saw it the first time, I was really like, oh, this is not a good scene in a very good overall movie. And that's the same with this. There's a scene that I'm like, whoa, this is weird, this is different, and this is not like the rest of the movie, and it's not in a good way. I am not sure if I will like the scene more after seeing it more, because that's the thing with the Rathtar scene. I actually kind of enjoy that now, but in this movie, it's not very good, and I'm like, does it have to be in the movie? I'm really not sure. So It might be that I like it more after seeing it a couple more times, but really it's like the worst scene of the movie that I'm like, no! This is not good in an overall good movie. So, Now there are some more issues that I have. These are considered spoilers, so that I won't get into right now. My spoiler review will be up later in the weekend, perhaps, when I see the movie even more times. Because this really is a movie that I have to see a lot to really comprehend everything that is going on. And now I have to give my rating. Now when I first gave my rating, I stuck to a 9 out of 10. I'm already raising my score on that, and I think that I will love it even more the more I see it. So I will give Rogue One, a Star Wars story, a 9.5 out of 10. I will rank it 5th in all the Star Wars movies ranked, like you have the original trilogy and The Force Awakens, and then Rogue One right behind it. Like, it's not even close to the best of the prequels with Revenge of the Sith. No, it's really way ahead of that for me. So believe me, Rogue One is a great movie, worth your time, and I hope you see it. Well, that's really all I can say about Rogue One, and now I wonder, have you seen it, and what did you think of it? Did you love it as much as I did, or did you have some issues with it? Please, whatever you think, let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you've liked my review and you want to see more of my movie, trailer, and Star Wars reviews, click right here.